chapter 6 and text number 128. So, Nrsimha Prabhu, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
ভট্টাচার্য কহে না বুঝি হেন জ্ঞান যার বুঝিবার লাগি সেই পুছে পুনর্বার
Sarvam Bhattacharya replied, I accept that you do not understand, yet even one who does not understand inquires about the subject matter. So, as we know, we read till 128 shloka number. So, Lord Chaitanya, as we know, met Sarvam Bhattacharya where he met in Jagannath Puri, in the temple, where he saw the deities and he became unconscious immediately after seeing the deities. And when he was fainted on the floor, then the guards of the temple wanted to throw him out, actually, that he just faking, something like that. But Bhattacharya, he was the president of the whole administration, of Puri temple. So, and he was the greatest logician of his time. So everybody actually was taking his advice, and he was particularly very strong Mayavadi, very famous. And he was an elderly man. He was just at the age of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's father. So he took compassion to that young, when he saw that this is very young sannyasi, he took compassion of him and took him at his house, and he saw all the symptoms of Sattvic Vikar in the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he was very impressed, and some other Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came later on when his disciples arrived at the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya with Gopinath Acharya, that and they saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They were very happy to see him, but he was in unconscious state. But later on, he came in a conscious state. So when Bhattacharya actually saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that this is very young sannyasi, how he will keep the sannyas ashram. So what he did, he proposed that I should teach him the Vedanta Sutra, and that's why he started reciting the Vedanta. He's like in Mayavadi philosophy, actually. So he talked about Vedanta Sutra for 7 days in Mayavadi, in Shankara Bhashya, in that. And that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't speak a single word. He didn't open his mouth, he was just keeping quiet. And 7 days, on 8th day, the Bhattacharya asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that you have been hearing the Vedanta Sutra from me for past week, but you have not asked any question. So, do you understand anything or didn't understand anything? And if you have not understood anything, then you should have asked me. Nor have you indicated whether I'm explaining it nicely or not. You should say something, good or bad about the speaker. So, I cannot tell whether you are understanding me or not. So at that time, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that I am a fool. And he said, I have no capacity to study the Vedanta Sutra. But you have asked me to hear. That's what I'm hearing. Because I'm trying to listen because you have asked me. I'm simply listening to you because you said that is the duty of a sannyasi, to listen to the Vedanta Sutra. So that's what I am listening. Next verse, please.
তুমি শুনি শুনি রহ মৌন মাত্র ধরি হৃদয়ে কি আছে তোমার বুঝিতে না পারি
You are hearing again and again, yet you keep silent. I cannot understand that what is actually within your mind. So he was trying to see what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is thinking about his explanation of Bhattacharya, because he was speaking on the subject matter for one whole week, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't say a single word. So now next verse, 130.
প্রভু কহে সূত্রের অর্থ বুঝে নির্মল, তোমার ব্যাখ্যা শুনি মনে হয় তা বিকল।
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then revealed his mind, saying, I can understand the meaning of each sutra very clearly, but your explanations have again agitated my mind. In the purport, the factual meaning of the verses of Vedanta Sutra is very clear as sunshine. The Mayavadi philosophers simply try to cover the sunshine with the clouds of interpretations imagined by Shankaracharya and his followers. So here Prabhupada is saying that actually the meaning of the Vedanta Sutra is very clear. Just if you read the sutras, you can understand that. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying to Bhattacharya that as far as explanations is concerned, I cannot understand that. So this way, Lord is indicating that in the Mayavadi Sampradaya, there are so many called sannyasis who, even though they may be very literate or they may be very illiterate or intelligent, they hear the Vedanta Sutra from their spiritual master, whether they understood or not. It's a matter of formality. They don't want to try to understand actually. That's why they just listen. Although they listen, they do not understand anything. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was saying that he did not understand explanation. See, because all Mayavadi sannyasi, they don't understand when the explanation is given, but they don't say anything. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is clearly saying that I cannot understand because it is too difficult for him to understand the meaning, because it's all concocted in the Mayavadi philosophy. So that's why he said that he did not approve of the Mayavadi interpretations. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to him that I'm a big fool and I'm uneducated, actually all the knowledge of Krishna comes from all Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He gives all knowledge to everyone actually. So how he's saying he's fool, but he just to satisfy Bhattacharya that I'm a fool, and that's why I cannot understand the meaning quite well. So he says that as far as the Vedanta Sutra itself is concerned, their meaning is very clear. One need not to even explain that. It's so clear. It's like sunshine. But you are covering it with the cloud of your interpretations, Shankaracharya philosophy. So that's why in this shloka, Prabhupada is saying. Next verse, please.
সূত্রের অর্থ কহে প্রকাশিয়া, সূত্রের অর্থ ভাষ্য কহে প্রকাশিয়া, তুমি ভাষ্য করো সূত্রের অর্থ আচ্ছা দিয়া।
The meaning of the verses in the Vedanta Sutra contain clear purports in themselves, but other purports you presented simply covered the meaning of the sutra like a cloud. Please refer to the Adi Leela 7th chapter, verse 10, verse 106 to 146 for the explanation of this verse. So it's the same thing what we discussed, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that the meaning is very clear in all the purports of Vedanta Sutra, but the purports of you are presenting, your purports, they are not clear at all. They look like they are completely covering the real meaning of Sutra, like the cloud covers the sunshine, same way your meanings, which are not that great, they are covering that they are covering the real meaning of the sutras. Next verse, please.
সূত্রের মুখ্য অর্থ না করহ ব্যাখ্যান, কল্পনার্থে তুমি তাহা করো আচ্ছাদন।
You do not explain the direct meaning of Brahma Sutra. Indeed, it appears that your business is to cover the real meaning. So here Prabhupada, here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling him that you are not showing the direct meaning. What is the direct meaning of that particular verses? Indeed, it looks like that your business is to cover the real meaning of the verses. In the purport, this is the typical of all Mayavadis are atheists who interpret the meaning of the Vedic literature in their own imaginative way. So what they do, Mayavadi philosophers actually, they believe in impersonal Lord, and they think, that I am same as the Lord. There is no difference, Atma and Paramatma, they are the same. That's what they say. You are God and I am God and we all are God. So that's their philosophy, Mayavadi philosophy. And that's why they say Narayan, Narayan, that you are also Narayan, I am also Narayan. So then how they can respect the Narayan, because they say I myself is Narayan, so it's no big deal, so they don't have any reverence for the Supreme Lord, and they think, that Lord has no body, no hands, no legs, no eyes, no ears. So that's why I say Mayavadi actually are very much offensive. Actually, they are big offender of Krishna. And that's why it is said that Mayavadi Bhashya Sunive Hoye Satyanash, something like that. So they say that Mayavadi interpretation, if we hear, then it's really very unauspicious. So the real purpose of such foolish people is to impose the impersonal conclusion of all the Vedic literature. The Mayavadi atheists also interpret Bhagavad Gita. In every verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In every verse, Vyasdev says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, or the Blessed Lord said, it is clearly stated that the Blessed Lord is the Supreme Person. But Mayavadi atheists still try to prove that absolute truth is impersonal. In order to present their false imaginary meaning, they must adopt so much word jugglery and grammatical interpretation that they finally become ludicrous. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remarked that no one should hear the Mayavadi commentaries or purports to any Vedic literature. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is advising very strongly that no one should hear the Mayavadi commentaries, because they will contaminate the mind, and Lord will never be happy with that kind of interpretation. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later explains him, that how, and the Bhattacharya, who was staunch impersonalist and Mayavadi, later on with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's explanation, he becomes a complete Vaishnava, and we will see that how he converted from Mayavadi to Vaishnava by teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught him very nicely, explained him very nicely that what is the real meaning of the Brahma Sutra or Vedanta Sutra. Next verse, please.
উপনিষদ শব্দে যেই মুখ্য অর্থ হয়, সেই অর্থ মুখ্য ব্যাসসূত্রে সব কয়।
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, Vedanta Sutra is summary of all Upanishads. Therefore, whatever direct meaning is there in the Upanishad is also recorded in the Vedanta Sutra or Vyasa Sutra. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that this Vedanta Sutra, what you explained to me, it is the summary of all the Upanishads, because this is the condensed form of all the Upanishads. And how many Upanishads are there? 108 Upanishads. And please refer to Adi Leela, 2nd chapter, 5th verse. Adi Leela, 7th chapter, verse 106 and 108. So, Prabhu, can you please put the Adi Leela in the 2nd chapter and 5th verse, if you can?
I will try to do it.
Okay, Prabhu, please. We are in Madhya Leela, so you have to open the other place, where there is Adi Leela. This is another volume. 7th chapter and 5th verse. So let us see what Prabhupada is saying there.
What chapter is that, Prabhu?
7th chapter and the 5th verse. Yes, 7.5, Prabhu, this one. 7.5 says here. Yes, second one from the top. Yeah, that one. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. So, in the translation, Prabhupada is saying, spiritually, there are no difference between the 5 tattvas. For the transcendental platform, everything is absolute. Yet, there are also varieties of the spiritual world. And in order to test these spiritual varieties, one should distinguish between them. So there is no difference between the 5 different kind of tattvas for a transcendentalist, which is the Vaishnava philosophy. And there are so many varieties also in the spiritual world. It's not like spiritual world is boring, there's so much varieties. And in order to test different varieties, one should distinguish what are the different kind of varieties are there. So there is description of Pancha Tattva, what are those Pancha Tattvas? Absolute divided in the 5 subject matters. So that's different mellows, what we say, different 5 kind of mellows, So can we come back to our shloka 134, please? Madhya Leela 134. That's where we were. Yes, please. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry, Prabhu. My computer is a little slow.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Would I continue?
Yeah, please.
মুখ্যার্থ ছাড়িয়া করো গৌণার্থ কল্পনা, অভিধাবৃত্তি ছাড়ি করো শব্দের লক্ষণা.
For each verse, the direct meaning must be accepted without interpretation. However, you simply abandon the direct meaning and proceed with your imaginative interpretation. So he was telling very humbly to Bhattacharya that whatever is the direct meaning, there are one meaning is the direct meaning when we read the direct translation or something, that's the direct meaning. But then when we put the purport, our own interpretation, then that may be the defective, sometime, until unless we follow the strict rules, in proper philosophy, then it's different. But Bhattacharya was not presenting them in the proper Vaishnava philosophy, so that's why his interpretations were very much contaminated by Mayavadi philosophy. So he says that you should understand the direct meaning and accept it without any doubt, because Shastra Pramana is the most important. So if we hear that and we accept that, then we can progress. Otherwise, if we simply abandon this direct meaning and give our own interpretation according to impressionist philosophy, then it is imaginary philosophy, and that will actually cover up the real meaning of those sutras. Next verse, please.
প্রমাণের মধ্যে শ্রুতি প্রমাণ প্রধান, শ্রুতি যে মুখার্ত করে সেই সে প্রমাণ।
Although there is other evidence, the evidence given by the Vedic version must be taken as foremost. So there are so many evidences, normally there are 4 main kind of evidences, but the evidence of the Shastras, Vedic version, must be taken as the foremost. Vedic version understood directly are the first class evidence. But works that should be considered are Jiva Goswami's Tattva Sandarbha, 10th and 11th verses, Sri Baldev Vidyabhushan's commentary on that, and following verse of the Brahma Sutra, Shastra Yonivat, and Tarka Pratishthan 2:111, and Shrutestu Shabda Mulatvat 2:127 is commended upon Sri Ramanujacharya, Sri Madhavacharya, Sri Nimbakacharya, and Sri Baldev Vidyabhushan. In his book Sarva Samvadini, Sri Jiva Goswami has noted that although there are 10 kinds of evidences, there are different kinds of evidences, direct perception of the Vedic version. The next kind is the historical, and then the hypothesis, and so on. There are so many different, and 4 are main, but there are actually 10 kind of like evidences, which we can consider. Reading the Vedic version, perceiving or interpreting by his experience is certain to be imperfect in 4 ways, because we all have 4 defects in us. So that's the way when we interpret by our own intelligence, then it will be contaminated with our 4 defects. What is? He is subject to commit mistakes. Second one is he becomes illusioned, then to cheat. We have the cheating propensity, that and to have imperfect, and we have imperfect senses. Our senses are not perfect, so that's why we tend to do the mistakes. Although the evidence may be correct, the person himself is in the danger or being misled due to his material defects. Apart from the direct presentation, there is a chance that the interpretation may not be perfect. So when somebody interprets himself, without proper evidence, his interpretation may be imperfect. Therefore, the conclusion is that only a direct presentation can be considered evidence. An interpretation cannot be accepted as evidence. If it is interpreted by his own mind, if it is Shastric injunction, we should accept it without any doubt on that. But interpretation, somebody does it, then it cannot be accepted as evidence, but may be considered proof of evidence. It can be considered one of the proof, but it cannot be really accepted as a proper evidence. So in Bhagavad Gita, at the very beginning, the first shloka of Bhagavad Gita, it says that Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yujutsava Mamaka Pandava Shaiva Kim Kurvanta Sanjaya. The statement of Bhagavad Gita or themselves prove that there is a place of religious pilgrimage named Kurukshetra, where the Pandav and Kuru met to fight. after meeting there, what did they do? So this is the question of the trust who is asking to Sanjaya. This was the trust inquiry to Sanjay. Although the verse statement are very clear, there is no interpretation needed. It is try to interpret different meaning of the word Dharmakshetra and Kurukshetra. Therefore, Sri Jiva Goswami has warned us not to depend on any kind of interpretation. It is better to take the verse as they are without interpretation. That's why it's important that we don't take anybody's interpretation, but we take the direct meaning of the verse. Actually, that is the best thing because we are reading it from the Shastra, and the Shastra Praman or the Shabda Praman is the best thing to. There are different kind of evidences, as we know. So here, Lord Chaitanya is actually again is protesting the misinterpretation of the Upanishads, rejecting any explanation which do not give the direct meaning. If it is not giving the direct meaning, then we should not take it as the evidence. Direct interpretation is called abhidvritti. So that has to be there. So where is the indirect interpretation? Called Lakshana Vritti. So there are two vrittis, Abhidha Vritti and Lakshana Vritti. So Abhidha Vritti is the direct meaning, and then word jugglery, and indirect interpretation, if we say, that's a Lakshana Vritti. So indirect interpretation serves no purpose. Actually, it will actually mislead us. So we should stay away from somebody's the interpretations, which are not authentic, because so many people write different commentaries on different books, and we have to be very careful which is authorized. Like our Sat Goswamis, they wrote so many books. We should read them because we know that they know the proper philosophy and they are interpreting it properly because they were trained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. But if we read Mayavadi philosophy or impersonal philosophy or those philosophers of books, then definitely it will get misled. So there are different kind of pramans. As Prabhupada said in the purport, there are 10 kind of praman, but 4 praman are very important. One is the pratyaksha, like we are seeing ourselves by our own eye, and we are understanding direct meaning of that. So that's a pratyaksha praman, and because we are watching ourselves. Then second is hypothetical, that is anuman praman. That's all the time wrong, because we are just thinking. Like these Mayavadis give all the time hypothetical understanding. It's not direct. And third one is historical understanding. That is aityathya. And fourth one is the most important, understanding through the sound or shastra. That's a sabda praman or shastra praman. So that last evidence is the best evidence. Of these 4, understanding from the Vedic scripture is the most important, because that's a sound representation of the absolute truth. Because Krishna actually spoke all the Shastras what we have, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, he spoke everything, So that's the sound expression of the Lord himself. So we should not have any doubt about that. And directly, if we can interpret it, that's the best thing. Or we should see that the interpretation is given by the authorized persons, not anybody's. Okay, next verse please, 136.
জীবের অস্থি বিষ্ঠা 2 শঙ্খ গোময়, শ্রুতিবাক্যে সেই 2 মহাপবিত্র হয়।
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, conch shell and the cow dung are nothing but the bones and the stool of some living entities. But according to the Vedic version, they are both considered very pure. So we know that we have the conch shell in our temple, but this is the bone, And normally what we do, a bone, is very inauspicious actually. So similarly the cow dung, which is the stool of the cow, but in the Vedas, they are considered very pure thing, to use it. Like even the temple flowers, when there was a hut of Maharaj, in the Bhubaneswar, and that Maharaj, that hut was made of the cow dung actually, and he will, even in the temple place, they will all put the lake of the cow dung actually. So it makes it purified. Even in the kitchens, they will put the cow dung, put some water and spread it all around the kitchen. And they will consider it very, very pure. It purifies. So that is the Vedic injunction, and we have to follow that. So according to the Vedic version, they are both considered very pure. According to Vedic principles, bones and dung are generally considered very impure. If one touches a bone or a stool, he must take a bath immediately. That is the Vedic injunction. Yet the Vedas also enjoin that a conch shell, although the bone of an animal, and cow dung, although the stool of an animal, are very sanctified. Even though such statements appear contradictory, like Vedic principle says that the bones in the cow dung should not be, the dung, the stool should not be considered, they are considered very impure. But then here we are then Veda says that conch shell and the cow dung, they are very pure. So even so, those statements, appear very contradictory, but still accept the fact that conch shell and cow dung are pure and sanctified on the basis of the Vedic version. So we have to follow the Vedic version, not think that okay, the stool is bad, so cow stool is also bad. No, if Vedic version says that that's pure, then we should consider the pure, not using our brain like that. So stool and bone are of the living entities actually are considered impure according to Vedic literature. If the same Vedic literature asserts that the cow dung and conch shell are very pure, apparently these statements are contradictory. But because cow dung and conch shell are considered very pure by the Vedas, they are accepted as pure as the followers of the Vedas without any argument. So Vedic injunction, we have to take it without any argument. That why it says like that, we should not use our brain in those kind of things because it's a statement of Vedas and we have to follow. If we try to understand the statements by indirect interpretation, then creating some hypotheses, then we are challenging the evidential authority of the Vedic statement. So in other words, we can say that Vedic statements cannot be accepted according to our imperfect interpretations. They must be accepted as they are. We should not interpret them. If they are not accepted in that way, then there is no authority in the Vedic statement. So Vedic statement we should consider as the authoritative. So if we don't consider them that they are right, then how the Vedic statements will be considered, because they are the authority. So whatever Vedic statement says, we should just consider it properly. Next verse, please, 137.
তত প্রমাণ বেদ সত্য যেই কয় লক্ষ্য না করিলে শত প্রমাণ্য হানি হয়।
The Vedic statements are self-evident. Whatever is stated there must be accepted. If we interpret according to our own imagination, the authority of the Vedas is immediately lost. Out of four main types of evidence which we just described, direct perception, hypothesis, historical reference, and the Vedas. Historical reference means in the history they are doing like this, they are doing like they are considering this, so this should be right. So that's not the proper way either. And the Vedic evidence is accepted the foremost. So whatever is written in the Vedas, so that Vedic evidence is accepted as the best or sound or the Shabda Praman. If we want to interpret the Vedic version, we must imagine or interpret according to what we want to do. First of all, we set forth such an interpretation as a suggestion or the hypothesis. As such, it is not actually true, and the self-evidence proof is lost. If we interpret, those things according to our hypothesis, then it will not be direct meaning of that, and it may be wrong. As such, it is not actually true. The self-evidence proof is lost. That way, self-evidence proof is completely gone. So, Madhavacharya, commenting on the aphorism, he says, Drashtiye tu, in the Vedanta Sutra 216, quotes the Bhavishya Puran as follows: Riga Yaju Sama Atharva Sha Bharatam Pancharatrikam Mola Ramayanam Chaiva Veda Itteva Shabditaha. The next says Puranani Yaniha Vaishnavani Vido Viduhu Swatah Pramanya Mete Sham Natra Kinchit Vicharyate. The Rig Ved, Yajurved, Shamved, and Atharved, Mahabharata, Pancharatra, and the other original Ramayana are all considered Vedic literatures. The Pancharatras, such as the Brahma, Vaivarta Puran, Naradiya Puran, Vishnu Puran, and Bhagavad Puran, are especially meant for Vaishnavas and are also Vedic literature. As such, whatever is stated in the Puranas, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, is self-evident. There is no need for interpretation. Bhagavad Gita is also within the Mahabharata. Therefore, all statements of Bhagavad Gita are self-evident. There is no need for interpretation. And if we do interpretation, the entire authority of the Vedic literature is lost. So there are so many books, Prabhupada is writing here, that like Brahma Vaivarta Puran, Naradiya Puran, Vishnu Puran, Bhagavad Puran, like Srimad Bhagavatam. So they are especially meant for Vaishnava. These are the Vaishnava literature. There are so many Purans, then the Purans are divided. There are 18 Purans, so Purans are divided 666, for like Sataguni, Tamoguni, and Rajaguni. So there are different Puran for different people according to their understanding. So that's why we sometimes say it is from this Puran. So all the Puran doesn't have, are not for Vaishnavas. Actually, Vaishnava has 6 Purans, and we should accept only those Purans, not all. And these Puranas or Mahabharata or Ramayana, actually they are self-evident. We need not to actually interpret their meaning is direct, and we should not interpret from our own imagination. There is no need for interpretation. And if we do not interpret the entire, if we do interpret not in the real meaning, then the proper authority of the Vedic style is lost. And that's why so many Shastras are really misleading the people all over, because they are not done by the proper people. That's why Prabhupada, when he wrote Bhagavad Gita, then he said Bhagavad Gita as it is. So what Krishna wanted, he gave the direct meaning, what Krishna wanted to say, not like this way or that way, not, he didn't say that. And that's why there were so many Bhagavad Gitas before Sri Prabhupada translated into English. There were 700 versions, but not a single Bhagavad Gita could change anybody's life or anybody became devotee with reading that. But once Bhagavad Gita as it is by Prabhupada, came, and then people saw that, then so many hundreds and thousands of people actually became devotees, and they are following that, so because that way they could understand the real meaning of Bhagavad Gita. So this is the greatness of Srila Prabhupada, that we have Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita and Prabhupada's interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam, at least till 10th chapter, 10th canto, so, and then later on, the remaining after 13th chapter of the 10th canto was done after Prabhupada left this immortal word, and it was done by his devotees, and they also did a very nice work. So this all interpretation should be considered a direct meaning, and we should read them. 138, please.
ব্যাসসূত্রের অর্থ জৈছে সূর্যের কিরণ সকল্পিত ভাষ্য মেঘে করে আচ্ছাদন।
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the Brahma Sutra, compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, is as radiant as the sun. One who tries to interpret its meaning simply covers the sunshine with a cloud. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining him in very humble way to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that the Brahma Sutra, which is compiled by Sri Vyasadeva, is as radiant, as shining as the sun. And sometimes, the Mayavadi or impersonal philosophers, they interpret it by their own way. So it looks like they simply cover the sunshine by a cloud. Like when cloud comes in front of the sun, it looks like it's getting little darker on this Earth planet. But in actuality, it cannot cover the sun. Sun is so shine, and sun never gets contaminated also, because like we can see, the sun actually gives so much heat and light even to the stool and urine and all dirty places also, but sun never gets imperfect, and like there is no, his purity is not gone, so nobody can contaminate the sun. So that's why the proper meaning should not be covered like that. Simply cover sunshine. Next verse, please.
বেদ পুরাণে কহে ব্রহ্ম নিরূপণ সেই ব্রহ্ম বৃহদস্তু ঈশ্বর লক্ষণ।
All Vedic literature and other literatures that strictly follow the Vedic principles certain that the Supreme Brahman is the absolute truth, the greatest of all, and the feature of the Supreme Lord. So by all the Vedic literature, we know that they all follow the Vedic principles. And what is the Vedic principle? That Supreme Person, Brahman, he is the absolute truth, and he is the greatest of all. He's absolute truth. And who is he? He's Lord Krishna. So, and a feature of the Supreme Lord. So absolute truth is the Supreme Lord actually. So in the purport, the greatest of the everything is Sri Krishna. Lord Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vedes sarvera hamayam vedya. By all the Vedas I am to be known. So what is the essence of all the Vedas? To know Lord Krishna. But when Mayavadi interpretation comes, it gives little different meaning. Now, no, Krishna, not Krishna himself, but Krishna within this and within that, like that, they interpret. So that's not the proper interpretation of that. I am to be, Krishna says, I am to be known. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that absolute truth is understood in 3 phases: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagwaniti. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagwaniti Sabdate. Thus the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the last word in understanding the absolute truth, Brahman. So when we say Brahmeti, like Brahma Jyoti, merging in the Brahma Jyoti, or Paramatmeti, which is the localized form of the Lord in the heart of all the Jiva souls, in the Bhagwan. So Bhagwan's word is the last word. Because all these 3, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, and Bhagwan Iti, they all 3 are the different realizations by the different Jivas. So some Jivas, thinks, that, okay, the Lord is like a sun rays, effulgence of the Lord from the Lord's body, and they want to merge in that. So they believe in that Brahman. But some, like yogis, they believe, the Gyanis believe in the Brahma Jyoti and the impersonal form of the Lord. Then the yogis believe in the Paramatma who resides in the heart of all the Jiva souls, and they meditate on that Paramatma. In the Vaishnavas, the devotees of the Lord, they all the time consider Bhagwan is the last word of all these three forms. And that is the best actually, because we can directly correlate, because Krishna reciprocates with all the jivas. So if we have to reciprocate in a Bhagwan, to believe in the last form of Bhagwan is the best rather than Paramatma or Brahmajyoti. Although Krishna is all three of them, but the best thing is to consider that Bhagwan form is the best. Next verse, please.
সর্ব ঐশ্বর্য পরিপূর্ণ স্বয়ং ভগবান, তাঁরে নিরাকার করি করহ ব্যাখ্যান।
Actually, the supreme absolute truth is a person, the supreme personality of Godhead, full with all the appearances. You are trying to explain him as impersonal and formless. So this is the defect of the impersonalist philosophers. That supreme person is himself saying, and proving here that the absolute truth is the Krishna and he is the supreme personality of Godhead. And he is the full of appearances. That's why Ishwar's definition is that he is full of all the six appearances. So, and now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that you are trying to explain him as impersonal and formless, that Krishna is no form. So he said that's not great thing. So Brahman means Brahatva, the greatest of all. Greatest of all is Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He possesses all potencies and oppulences in full. Therefore, the absolute truth, the greatest of all, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whether one says Brahman or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fact is the same, for they are identical. So Brahman and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are identical. Brahman, Paramatma, they all are the same actually. It's a different realization in the different form of the Lord. Somebody believes in impersonal form of the Lord, somebody believes in personal form of the Lord, but always our devotion, it will be very easy if we believe in the personal form of the Lord and we see how the Lord reciprocates with us rather than thinking him impersonal, because their devotional service will be very, very difficult, as Krishna says in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Greatest of all is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whether one says Brahman or Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fact is the same, for they are identical. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna accepts that Krishna is Param Brahma, Param Dhama. He says, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Midam. Although the living entities are material nature are something described as Brahman, sometimes described Brahman, Param Brahma, the Supreme, the greatest of all the Brahmans is still Krishna. So greatest of all the Brahmans, because Krishna is the greatest of all the Brahmans. Sometimes, we can read in Shastra that this nature, the Prakriti, sometimes described as Brahman or Param Brahman. Parabrahman or Supreme, but Param Brahman, Krishna is the Param Brahman. So even we say Prakriti is the Brahman, then, but Param Brahman is the greatest of all. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is full with all opulences, and as such he possesses all the riches, all the strength, all the reputation, all knowledge, all beauty, and all renunciations. So these are the 6 opulences which Krishna has them in full all the time. It's not like sometimes he gives, like he has $1 trillion, he gives $1 trillion to somebody and he will not have any money. It's not like that. He will also have at the same time, simultaneously he can give 1 trillion and he will have 1 trillion again. So he is eternally a person and eternally supreme. If one tries to explain the Supreme Personality, supreme impersonally, one distorts the real meaning of the Brahman. So one should not interpret if it is direct meaning and that meaning people can understand, then he should just leave it rather than giving his own philosophy. Next verse, please.
নির্বিশেষ তারে কহে যেই শ্রুতিগণ প্রাকৃত নিষেধই করে অপ্রাকৃত স্থাপন।
Whatever there is an impersonal description in the Vedas, because in the Vedas we can see the impersonal description of Vedas. The Vedas mean to establish that everything belonging to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental and free of mundane characteristics. There are many impersonal statements about the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the different Shastras. Like I stated in Shvetashar Upanishad, what Shvetashar Upanishad says, Apani pado javano grahita Pashyanti chakshuhu shrunotya karnaha savetti vedyam nacha tasyati vetta tamahur gruyam purusham mahantam. Shvetashar Upanishad 3.19. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is described as having no hands and legs. So how this is possible, that Krishna has no hands and legs? No, he nonetheless accepts all the sacrificial offerings. So if he has no hands and no legs, how is he accepting the offerings if he has no hands? He has no eyes, yet he sees everything. He has no ears, yet he hears everything. When it is stated that the Supreme Lord has no hands and no legs, one should not think that he is impersonal. Rather, he has no mundane hands and or legs like ours. He has no eye, yet he sees. This means that he does not have mundane limited eye like ours. Rather, he has such eyes that he can see past, present, and future. Everywhere, in every corner of the universe, and in every corner of the heart of every living entities, thus the impersonal description of the Vedas intend to deny mundane characteristics of the Supreme Lord. They do not intend to establish the Supreme Lord as impersonal. So we can see that when people say he has no eye or no hand or no ears, that means he doesn't have these mundane hands or mundane legs like the material people in this material world has. He has all spiritual legs, spiritual hands, spiritual legs, and he can see very well. And Ishopanishad also has very nice verse. It's verse number 15. Hiranyame patrena satyasya pihitam mukham tattvam piyushan pavranu satyadhayarth drashyate. Oh my Lord, sustainer of all the living, your real face is covered by the dazzling effulgence. Sometimes Mayavadis think, they cannot see the Lord's face. And then they think, the Lord has no face. It's all effulgence. But that's not true. So that's why the devotee should pray to remove the covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotees. Then Lord will reveal to him. So we should not just interpret by seeing, because when we cannot see the Lord directly, because Lord is so effulgent, it is like 1,000 suns are together at one place, so we cannot see that even we cannot open our eye like that. So that's why if we request the Lord that please take away your effulgence so I can see your darshan. So then Krishna will mercifully take away his effulgence and then we can see the Krishna eye to eye. So this is the proper way to pray to the Lord. And that's why the Vaishnavas pray like that. Thus, the impersonal description in the Vedas intend to deny the mundane characteristics of the truth. So, if we take the interpretation, impersonal interpretation, then what will happen? it will hide and completely deny also the characteristics of the Supreme Lord. And then, because Krishna can see everything, he can hear everything, he can see us very clearly, and Krishna knows about everyone, all the jiva souls. So how he can do that? Which is written in Shastra. So Shastra Praman is the best thing, and we should return whatever. We should completely believe that whatever written in Shastra is right. 132, please. 142, sorry.
या या श्रुतिर जलपति निर्विशेषम
I think it's in
शा शब्दी हन्ते सा विशेषम एव विचारा जोगे शति हन्त तवसुम तसम प्रायो बलिहा सा विशेषम इव. Correct.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, whether Vedic mantra describe the absolute truth impersonally, only prove in the end that the absolute truth is a person. The Supreme Lord is understood in two features, impersonal and personal. So both are features of the Lord, but for a devotee, personal feature is the best, and we should actually consider Lord has the form so we can see him properly. We can pray him that Lord looks like this, because we all got the form, our form by this, because Lord has himself form. That's why he gave in his shape, and that's why we have the form. Otherwise, how we will have form. So when one impersonalist was asking Prabhupada about form, so he called this little girl, who was 3, 4, 5 years old, and Prabhupada asked, how is Krishna? And he said, his person, he has eyes, he has guys. So she told a full description of Krishna. So he says, see how even the small girl knows that how Krishna looks. And she said that we got our form from the Lord. So how we can have the form and Krishna will not have form, it is not possible. So impersonalists should think that way, that when we have the form of God, definitely is the form. If one considers the Supreme Personality of Godhead in both features, he can actually understood the absolute truth. He knows that the personal understanding is stronger, because we see that everything is full of variety. No one can see anything that is not full of varieties. So this is the quotation of Caitanya Chandrodaya Natak by Kavi Karnapur. So it shows, how Krishna, how in Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak, how it is described about Krishna by Kavi Karnapur, that Krishna, whatever Vedic mantra, or there are interpretations, that only prove that absolute truth is a person. So all the Vedas actually prove that Krishna is a person, but still people who believe in the impersonal form of the Lord, they interpret very differently, and we should not read those interpretations. So one thing, like we were discussing, that there are 108 Upanishads, and out of that, the 16 or 18, I think they are very important out of 108 Upanishads. So sometimes people actually ask a question that why we have 108 beads. So the answer is that there are 108 Upanishads which contains all the knowledge of the absolute truth about the Krishna. And also there is another answer for that question, is the transcendentalists think that there are 108 beads which represent 108 companions of Lord Krishna. And like they are the Radharani and all her gopis, 108 main gopis. So 108 were the main gopis which were participating in Raj dance with Krishna. So that's why we have 108 beads, because sometimes people may ask, why we cannot have more or less, why 108? So first thing is 108 Upanishads, which gives full knowledge of Krishna, and also 108 gopis, which dance in the Ras Leela with Krishna. And Radharani, actually, they serve Radharani constantly, and they are the friends of Radharani, and we should all respect them, and that's why we have 108 bits in our chanting. When we chant, we chant on the 108 bits every single day. Thank you very much for listening, and we will continue from verse number 133 next week. So somebody has any question, comments, then we can discuss it. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for a nice class. A lot of things to know.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Anybody is there?
Prabhu, you explained very nicely about the Mayavadis and how they try to cover the sun of Krishna shining in. Just a further example why it's so dangerous to associate with these Mayavadis. Sometimes we think, oh, it's innocent, or we want to be polite and go to places. But if you listen too long, there's these doubts. They can cast doubts very easily. Thank you for explaining why. Why that is.
They will contaminate our mind.
Yeah.
So much, and like in Varanasi, if you go, there's so many Mayavadis. Another place in India is Rishikesh. All the full of Mayavadis, sannyasis there. So we should avoid those Mayavadis, and they stay with Krishna moment. Like people go sometimes to Rishikesh, very nice place, very beautiful. Ganges, Mother Ganges is there, but we should not associate it with Mayavadi sannyasis. We should stay in our own ashram and listen to our own devotees actually, rather than going out and trying to see the life of those impersonalists, because that will actually end our Vaishnavism, all our philosophy, because they are so poisonous, poisonous philosophy. And Prabhupada actually didn't like any Mayavadis at all. They are very dangerous for all of us. Anyone else has any comments, questions? So it's already 9 o'clock, so we can end here.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make one announcement, Prabhu, that
Yes, sure.
tomorrow night, Thursday evening, starting at 6:30, we have His Grace Dinabandhu Prabhu is going to be speaking at the temple. So we encourage all the devotees to please come. Dinabandhu Prabhu, he's been living in Vrindavan since 1984, so for 40 years. And during that time, he's been traveling around Vrindavan, Vraj, the land of Vraj, giving parikrama tours to all the pilgrims. He's very well versed in the various pastimes and holy places within the land of Vraj. And when he travels, he shares that with everybody. So please, take this rare opportunity to associate with a wonderful devotee. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu, he is very nice devotee, Brajavasi, and everybody in the Braj area, everybody knows him, all the villagers know him, because he goes to each village, he talks fluent Hindi also, and he communicates with Brajavasis very nicely, and he knows so many kathas, so many leelas of Krishna, and so much importance of the different places in the all over Braja. He knows everything. He's living in Brajbhumi for so many years. He's a very respectable person. We try to come and see him, do his darshan and listen to him. We all can get benefited. So please come as many people as come. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So we will end here.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Pachakalpatarubhishcha kripasinduvyabhiccha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji.